The schoolgirl is currently going through a very difficult period in her life, and she devotes all her free time to preparing for school. The early promotion exam is coming up very soon, and she has no option but to fail because her future depends on it. She feels that she needs to allocate a little more time for training, and it would also be advisable to review the material again in a study group. Now she's afraid to even think about how she'll feel if something goes wrong, and the teacher gives her a grade that's too low. All of this takes much more time than she would like, but it's worth trying for the sake of a dream. The girl is surprised how she manages to be interested in her mother's life, who has apparently been dating someone again for about 2 months now. A young lady is constantly searching for a groom. That's all she does. And as soon as she gets home, she always tells her daughter about her successes. Here she came running after another date, although she had just recently broken up with her ex-husband. All her friends thought it would be a difficult breakup, but she got over it very easily and had already forgotten about it. The daughter thought that she would just listen to everything as usual, when suddenly her mother announced that she was going to get married, and it sounded as if everything had already been decided, and it wasn't just her plan. It's all a bit out of place, but my daughter tried to get to the heart of the matter. He's not a stranger to her after all. It's a logical question. Is that man also divorced? After all, at that age, few people are free in that regard. The assistant quickly prepared the table for them, and they began telling stories about what a sweetheart he is and how attentive he is to everything that it is impossible not to fall in love with him at first sight. And they decided to get married so early because he really wants to tie the knot as soon as possible. The girl admits that this time she finally gave in, but he even took responsibility for all the wedding preparations. Mariana tries to show that she is very happy for her mother, but she has so many problems of her own that her face doesn't even try to relax and smile. To tell the truth, she thought that this was just another fleeting relationship that might last no more than a month. But a wedding is something new. It's only been 6 months since my mother signed the application for a second divorce, swearing she would never marry again. And then this happened. In any case, the main thing is that she is now beaming with happiness and feels loved, and that is what makes life worth living. The girl is at least happy that at least someone in this family is happy. As long as this person dear to her is happy, she is also happy inside. And this also gives her a little strength, because if there were problems in the house and everyone was as sad as she was, nothing worse could be imagined. It would be impossible to study in such conditions, so we should be glad that everything is not as bad as it could have been. After this conversation, they dined quietly for a while, when suddenly Mom said that there was just one small problem that she didn't want to talk about right away. Her fiancé wants to come to them this afternoon, so the girl will have to change her plans. As usual with Mom, everything happens very unexpectedly. The daughter couldn't refuse, and kindly agreed to do as she wanted. In the end, they discussed everything that needed to be discussed. Then each went about their own business. Only the young lady was a little unhappy that she would have to cancel today's class, which she already misses. The lady wondered why she was in such a hurry. Today was a free day anyway, so she asked her assistant, "Bring another cup of tea, because while there is an opportunity to relax, you should take advantage of it. Then she won't have time for this anytime soon." And in the meantime, the assistant started talking about how she was worried about her exam. Mariana has already come to terms with it, so she says that her mother is not to blame for anything, and she will gladly support her on this day, since it is so important to her. The assistant understands the girl, because indeed, she is none other than Madame Tatiana. Madame Tatiana was once an opera singer from a provincial town, with unrivaled talent and dazzling beauty. She attracted supportive patrons far beyond the capital. She was a star of high society. All this lasted until one day, when she disappeared without a trace. Countless people tried to find her, but for a long time, there was not a single clue. Before she disappeared from memory, the girl dramatically returned, causing a stir. Then she didn't come alone. She had a child in her arms, and in the end, everyone who loved her and praised her. They started gossiping endlessly about her and her child, but it didn't shake her in any way. On the day when this beautiful, sweet creature was born, the girl promised herself that even being alone, she would give this child everything he would need. And so she became the outrageous but famous Madame Tatiana. The assistant didn't want to interfere in something that wasn't her business, but she couldn't remain silent either. She felt that this was her third marriage, and perhaps she shouldn't be in such a hurry. Mariana could only say to this that everyone knows how much her mother loves to help out, after which the assistant asked the girl to wash up and change clothes. After all, Despite the fact that the event was sudden, she still cannot come to terms with the fact that the young lady is not ready. The girl thinks that if she stands in front of her mother, no one will even notice her, so it probably doesn't matter what she wears. The assistant doesn't understand how the lady can say such a thing, after which the lady apologized and promised to dress appropriately so that Dina wouldn't worry about her anymore. Meanwhile, someone's carriage has already arrived, and since there are no additional meetings planned for today, it is most likely the carriage of that very mysterious groom. A fair-haired guy with a bouquet of flowers in his hand can be seen from the window. Everything is as it should be. He is already looking forward to finally meeting his lady. He has been waiting for this since the moment they last saw her. Mariana is almost ready for this moment. She even started to get a little worried, and she doesn't understand why. She listened to her feelings and imagined what it was like for her mother, for whom this event was very important. The girl begins to imagine what the groom will be like this time. The most important thing for her is that he will be the one who will make her mother truly happy, and for a long time. Tatiana. She looks absolutely innocent, but this woman is far from what she might seem at first glance. Meanwhile, Deanna's assistant knocked on her door. She decided to come in for a minute and asked if she would be a distraction. The thing is that the lady went out to buy new jewelry for an indefinite period of time, so she asked me to tell her daughter to go to the meeting place in her place. There was no choice. I had to agree. The main thing is not to regret it later and for everything to go well. How did the assistant warn me that she recently saw a strange carriage at the back gate, which meant that the guest was already waiting? Even though everything sounded very logical, the girl was still surprised for some reason, as if she didn't understand who could be there. The thing is that it is usually considered wrong to park a carriage at the back gate. Only the owners of the estate can do that. Meanwhile, Marianne has already gone outside. She looks at this luxurious carriage and can't even imagine who will come out of it now. She understands that there is a very respected person inside, and at this time, she is surprised how her mother managed to meet him. She had never seen anything so luxurious in her life. This guest had already impressed her without even showing his face. When he had already started to leave, the lady thought that if this was another admirer with taste like her mother's, then it would be impossible to drive him away. She could only hope that nothing like that would have to be done. Now he's already out of the carriage. The guy is a little embarrassed. But for now, the girl doesn't notice the most important thing, that he looks too young to be her mother's fiancé, and he is also very different from all those she was with before. At first, he looked very sweet with his blue eyes, but when he started talking, he ruined everything. He began to help. That in front of him was the servant of this family and said that she was very timely. Then he asked to come closer and deliver a message for him, which sounded terribly unpleasant. He instantly ruined the impression of himself without even realizing it. She began to look at him with bewilderment. How dare he treat her like that, and regretted that she had prepared so much for him and canceled her studies. Meanwhile, he says that today is an extremely important day for him, and no one can imagine how long he has been waiting for this. Then he added that he came here to finally win the heart of one lady, with whom he fell in love until the end of his days. He speaks about it so confidently that, considering his age, it even sounds funny. Mariana decided for herself that since he wasn't joking, she should drive him away. The girl quickly got her bearings and replied that, unfortunately, he would not be able to meet with the lady, because today, Madame Tatiana has an official meeting with her remarriage partner, a very nice gentleman, although he seems to be right in front of her right now. It is not yet entirely clear what the young lady has in mind. She apparently decided to deceive him by saying that he wasn't the only one dating Tatiana today. It was a dubious idea, but if everything worked out, it would be interesting to see how it all ended. And she also tells him that these words could have broken his heart, but this pain must be endured, and she believes that he will be able to overcome the pain of loss and move on from this. It's hard to imagine how she imagines it, but the girl is trying very hard. When she had already said everything she wanted, she wished him all the best and began to return back to the house. The guy suddenly asked her to stop because he didn't understand how this was possible. He wants to sort things out because he has a meeting scheduled for today, and he also suggested that she might be wrong. And then a phrase was heard that turned the whole situation upside down. The guy says that they all probably misunderstood him. He didn't come to see Madame. He arrived to escort her daughter, Lady Mariana, and that's what's really interesting. It turns out that they met, but he doesn't realize it yet. The guy asks to call the young lady and hopes that she is somewhere around here. The girl at this moment is trying to comprehend the fact that he came for her and not for her mother. But the only thing she understands is that she doesn't understand anything. There was a pause between them, which didn't seem suspicious to him yet. He wondered how the girl would act in this situation. Some time passed. She came to terms with the situation and now asks for forgiveness for the misunderstanding, and then asks to stop calling her a lady. This title weighs heavily on her, and he processes these words internally. It took him several minutes, and now he understands that right now, he is standing right in front of the one he asked to call. When there was a pause between them, she told him that he understood everything correctly, and that she would not repeat it twice. After that, she introduced herself as that very same Marianne, and made him feel awkward after the way he treated her. The guy can't believe his eyes. He doesn't know what to say now and how to behave. Naturally, first of all, he began to apologize, explained that he did not want to be rude to her at their first meeting, to which she replied that nothing terrible had happened. Everyone makes a mistake. He doesn't understand what she's talking about, but she says she's already used to it, so everything's fine. She and her mother are completely different. Many people can't figure out right away that they're related, so this time nothing surprising happened. And meanwhile, he remembers that he still hasn't introduced himself, and she doesn't know his name. He's Orion Miller, the young Duke of the Miller estate, and from now on, one could say, in a certain sense, he would be her brother. But when he spoke about it, he became a little embarrassed. Now it became clear why he was so young. The guy was simply the son of the very man her mother had met, and since this was a special occasion, he had come to accompany her. This time, the guy apologized again for not warning her in advance. Then he explained that, in fact, he, like her, found out about all this suddenly, and after these words, the lady concluded that he was very polite. The girl also thought that being the son of a duke, he doesn't have to be so formal, but he still tries to be that way for her. The lady decided to thank him for his kindness, but after that, she still had to upset him by saying that she couldn't go with him. He was very surprised, upset, and then asked why that was. He thought that he had offended her in some way, or that maybe she was afraid of him. But the girl said outright that her tastes were different from her mother's. He didn't quite understand what she meant by that, so she had to explain that, at the very least, she couldn't ride in such a flashy carriage. Then she said that for her it was too much, and this phrase sounded like a blow to his heart. In that case, he couldn't help but ask how she would get to the meeting place. Marianne replied that she had recently rented a carriage, which was parked in front of the main gate. Just as she wanted to say that she would ride on it, he said that in that case, he would also ride on it with her, so they could spend time together. But for some reason, the guy didn't ask if she was against the idea. He simply decided for himself that this would be comfortable for everyone, and now she doesn't know how to react to this. Time passed. Everyone took their seats. But there was one problem. There was too little space, because at least the carriage was designed for a smaller number of people. The girl clearly sees that they are comfortable, so she started hinting that they should go separately. Or, in extreme cases, he can sit next to her so as not to be crowded together by 3 people on one seat. He says everything is fine, tries to smile, although, judging by his knights, they don't think so. Then they also said that everything was fine, because at the very least, they weren't supposed to take a seat next to a lady. The girl thinks to herself, why are they going overboard like this? It's obvious they're not telling her everything. They probably have such a compelling reason to accompany her that they're willing to endure such inconvenience. Perhaps the guy wants to tell her something. He's just looking for the right moment, which hasn't come yet. He is, after all, the duke of one of the 5 great estates of the empire, and the guy most likely doesn't approve of a mother and daughter of humble origins being drawn into this so unexpectedly. At least, it sounds very logical. Now she understands that she needs to somehow speak up first to take the burden off of them all. Otherwise, the trip will be unbearable until the very end. The girl says that he has nothing to worry about as a duke, to which he asks what she means. Marianne explained that he didn't have to register her in the duke's family, and that he wasn't asking for or intending to ask for any financial support. And as for her mother, she wouldn't demand anything for marrying the duke either. The ladies are planning to get an education at the academy and become independent, so they don't have to worry about that at all. She doesn't need anything from them. The guy asks what she's saying because he hadn't even thought about it, and it's even unpleasant for him to hear it. Meanwhile, the girl signaled the driver to stop the carriage immediately. He braked sharply. Everyone staggered a little, but pretended as if nothing had happened. Mariana starts to leave. Since they are almost there, she decided it would be better to walk, and it will be much more convenient for them. Orion began to beg her to stop, because he realized that she clearly did not understand his true intentions. He wants to explain everything to her, but she is no longer interested. And meanwhile, Mariana thinks that she should have expressed herself a little differently, or rather, in different words. She also thinks that in addition, she will become independent after education, and her mother has enough financial support to live without problems. What she really needs is love that will make her happy, and what else does a person need? Not much time has passed. The girl is already there, and from the first seconds of being here, she has only one thought. Is such luxury really possible in this world? Here, every detail is so shiny that it seems as if everything is not real, like in a picture. Just as she was about to start looking for her mother, she called her herself, and from the lady's voice, she understood where to go. It wasn't difficult. The feast was happening right next door, but the girl completely forgot that she needed to prepare for this. After all, she was about to see her mother's beloved. Mariana approached them, and the first thing the man said was that he was pleased to meet her. He had heard a lot about her, and now he understood why her mother only said good things about her. And since this is their first meeting, he took special care in choosing the place and hopes that they like it here. Of course, the lady said it was wonderful here, and thanked him for his efforts for people she hardly knows. It was surprising for Marianne to hear that he called this place modest, because she had never seen anything more beautiful and luxurious in her life. And in the meantime, they started talking about how his son was supposed to accompany her. But since the young lady came alone, he assumed that they had missed each other. The girl explained that it wasn't quite like that circumstances had just worked out that she had simply come separately, and he should arrive soon. After she said this, he was very confused by the fact that for some reason they did not get there together. Mariana said that since it was a double bed, they all felt uncomfortable, so they had to continue on foot. The Duke doesn't understand anything. The lady speaks for a two-seater carriage, but the carriage his son took certainly wasn't cramped. Just at that moment, the young Duke approached. He immediately apologized for being late and was ready to explain everything if necessary. He felt awkward that the first meeting had happened this way, so he promised that it wouldn't happen again next time. Unexpectedly, his father started to get indignant. Tatiana decided to correct the situation and said that it was okay because she herself often fails to arrive on time, and she understands how awkward the guy is now. Mariana, for her part, also apologized for causing him inconvenience, because if she had not refused to ride in his carriage then, this time, and he says that he came to her without warning and thinks that he should apologize. But definitely not to her. The guy never ceases to amaze her with his manners, but she still feels uneasy after their unsuccessful acquaintance. When everyone was already at the table, she began to look at him more closely, while he looked away and did not notice it. The girl noticed his disheveled hair and wrinkled clothes. She imagines how awkward it is for him to be in front of everyone like this, and admires how, even in such an annoying situation, the guy remains calm and even apologizes to her. Although given the authority of the Duke's family, he is not at all obliged to be so attentive towards her. Despite all this, the main thing is that Tatiana is happy, and her fiancé is ready to do everything for her, so that everything is good for them. Time passes. They begin to get used to each other. The situation becomes much easier. They can now begin eating normally, but before that, Tatiana and Mariana admired the dishes that were on the table. She is so beautiful, like a work of art, and the groom is pleased that he can surprise her even with such little things. For him, there is nothing special about it, but she is happy with it like it's a gift. When the young lady was brought her portion, she began to touch it very slowly, and from the outside, it looked as if she didn't like something. While everyone has calmed down, she continues to feel uncomfortable and cannot start eating. They ask her what happened because she's sitting there completely exhausted, to which the girl replies that she's just feeling a little unwell and thanks them for their concern. Tatiana tries to calm her daughter down, reminding her that everything is fine now, but really, she should be more worried than anyone else. Meanwhile, the Duke says that he recently learned of her success at the academy and believes that moving up to the senior classes at the academy at such a young age is worthy of respect. He guessed what she liked to talk about, changed the subject in time, and he succeeded. Mariana thanked her for the kind words and said that it was all thanks to her wonderful friends who had guided her all this time. And then Orion joins in. He looks at her as if with loving eyes and says that there is no need to be modest, because if it were not for her merits, she would not have been able to achieve such results, even if she had 100 friends who could support her. These were also very good words. Tatiana was glad that they all got along so well. This was exactly how she imagined this feast. The lady can't get enough of how beautiful they all look together, like a real family. And then she suggested that they get to know each other better some other time. But now it would be better to have a quiet lunch. Mariana truly calmed down. She felt that she was treated well here and even remembered about the food. Overall, the Duke turned out to be a very good person. The girl thought he would be stern, but he is so unattached to formalities that it is very easy and comfortable with him. It was difficult at first, but the main thing is that now everything is fine. She's glad he was so caring throughout the meal, but to her, he's just her mom's husband. Meanwhile, the man offers to finish the meal. In his opinion, this would be enough for the first meeting, and since they are already relatives, he wanted to ask Orion to accompany them back. Only then he said that it seemed like they weren't inclined to do it, so he would refrain, and the guy immediately became upset because he had already thought that he could stay with them for some time longer. Since it was time to say goodbye, Mariana once again thanked them all for their care and hospitality, which meant a lot to her. Meanwhile, she was already going outside. The assistant said goodbye to her and wished her a good day. It felt like it lasted forever, no matter how it sounds. The lady is glad that it's over. She was really looking forward to it. Although everything wasn't so bad, such meetings are exhausting. This time they were a bit late. The main thing is that Mom looks happy, and everything else is unimportant. Now I can calmly go about my business and return to school. Because time is running out, and I'll have to work twice as hard in the near future. But what can I do? There's no choice. She was thinking about leaving. She was lost in her thoughts. And then the guy shouts at the top of his lungs, asking her to wait for him just 1 second. The girl understands that he most likely came to accompany her, as they agreed. So I said that if he was asking about an escort, then it wasn't worth it. And he explained that he didn't come for that. There was something else he wanted to say. This intrigued her greatly. She was interested and at the same time scared to hear what he was about to say. Mariana starts to worry about what's going on there, because who knows what could have happened already. And then he explains that he wanted to talk about what she was talking about while they were eating. He thought about it. She immediately caught his thoughts and asked, what if they get a notarial statement from the Magic Tower? Since it was hard to believe what she said earlier, getting a notarized statement seemed like the best option. After that, she advises to take a blood oath because it is the easiest and fastest way. But over time, there is a risk of discoloration. In their days, most people avoid it. She's sure he'd prefer a more proven method. But suddenly, the guy says that's not entirely true. After that, she realized that he probably wanted a more traditional way. But even after that, he said that this was not it either. Suddenly, the guy seemed to get angry and said that he was not choosing any of these options. But in general, he thinks that they need to discuss this more thoroughly sometime, and not like this while on the street, on the go. He sincerely and desperately believes that this is necessary and asks her to think about it carefully so that she doesn't refuse and regret it later. To be honest, she still has no idea what exactly he wants to talk to her about. But if he has something to say, then she agrees to sign a contract with him as soon as it is convenient for him. And suddenly, he gives her some kind of box, and then asks her to accept it and not refuse. It's something like a communication sphere. When he contacts her, she will have to give an answer. Overall, he really seems like a good person, but rather peculiar, the approach to him. Meanwhile, the next day has arrived. The weather outside is beautiful, making it impossible to stay in the room. The lady ran out into the fresh air. It gives strength and helps to wake up almost immediately. She saw Zen passing by and asked him to come over, apparently wanting to ask for something. It's clear that he's not in the mood. He wouldn't want anyone to notice him at all. But since that's the case, he can't ignore her. Looking at him, I don't even want to talk to him. He looks too gloomy, as if he dressed up like that on purpose to be avoided. He reminded her that he had asked her not to call him when he was sleeping, and he did so in such a displeased voice, as if he would later take revenge for this. Mariana says that since she went out, she wanted something tasty, hinting that he should do it for her. The guy knows that if she comes home, she won't want to go out anywhere, but he just laughs at it. Then she started to come closer to him and asked him to finally show her face. She hadn't seen him for too long. She only has to look into those beautiful eyes. In them, she sees calm and peace, even when he is angry. The girl never tires of telling him how handsome he is, and when their eyes meet, she looks like the happiest person in the world. The guy got angry and reminded her how he asked her not to tease him, but she only does everything out of spite, although she promised that it wouldn't happen again. He once again asked her never to take off his hood without asking, but she seemed not to hear this, and did not understand how important it was for him. She sincerely doesn't understand how he can hide such beautiful eyes from people, because if they were seen, the world would become a kinder place. He's now more interested in what she was doing that she didn't even have time to eat, and as far as he understands, she didn't take any money with her in case she got hungry. She responded to this by saying that it had happened recently at lunch, but it had been a rather awkward setting. The guy realized that she couldn't cope without him and immediately organized a hearty snack so that she wouldn't have to worry about getting hungry. They sit in a comfortable environment, grill vegetables and meat, and don't need anything else to be happy. Mariana is asked to stop staring out the window and finally eat with her, otherwise she will not leave him alone. The girl remembered that everything here was the most delicious, what he liked, and if he refused now, then he would have to eat cold food later. He responded that all this food was for her, but if he found out again that she went out hungry, he wouldn't even say hello to her. The lady pretends to ignore his words and insists that he eat at least a piece. Otherwise, he will later regret refusing. For her, all this looks so offensive that the girl sincerely understands how one can refuse such a thing even when one is full. Personally, she is delighted with street food, which is 1,000 times better than expensive restaurant dishes. They taste different somehow. When she had already eaten half, she looked very greedily at the rest, and in the end, since he refused, she decided to eat the rest. She said it was his own fault for not agreeing right away, and now let him watch her finish the last pieces. But he didn't seem upset. On the contrary, he actually liked it when she was full. Some more time passed, and then he asked how she was doing, what was new. Mariana at first wanted to act as if nothing like that was happening, and then she thought that since he was trying so hard for her, he deserved to know the truth. She understood that he wouldn't be happy about it, but she still told him that her mother was getting married again. Before this, he was absolutely calm and even smiled sweetly. But suddenly, he became so angry that it cannot be described in words. He even took off his hood out of anger and already wants to know who it is this time. Such news doesn't sound serious to him at all. The guy is sure that all this won't last long. Marianva had already started talking about this, so she continued that he didn't seem like such a bad man, and he also had a son a little older than her. And then the guy asks me not to say that he is some kind of nobleman, otherwise he will become completely disillusioned and fall into depression. From experience, he understands that if a person is from high society, then this is very bad, and he would not want it to turn out that way. They basically figured this out, after which the guy wanted to talk about his son, whom the lady had already met. He asked her to tell him everything she had learned and noticed. He wants to hope that the guy didn't act too arrogantly and didn't interfere with her doing her business. The girl replied that it was the other way around. He's not like that, and in general, when she talked about him, memories of his bright smile, eyes, and appearance came to her mind. So she realized that she only had good associations with this person, and she couldn't say anything bad about him. The only thing is, he just seemed a little peculiar to her. That's what she told him. But that's something you can live with. A friend wants to clarify whether he understands her correctly that the guy is some kind of weirdo, after which she immediately tells him that this is not true. After all, he was looking at her rather strangely. As usual, all her words are twisted and taken too literally. But that's not even what she meant. The girl is tired of constantly repeating that she didn't mean it, and no longer wants to say anything unnecessary so as not to aggravate the situation. Time passed. It was time to say goodbye. After all, everyone had their own things to do. Zen was in such a hurry somewhere that he didn't even really say goodbye to her, so she had to do it. The girl thanked him for the food and the time he spent with her, understanding that he was a little busy, and that is what is most valuable to her. She has too few people with whom she could share her experiences, and he is one of them. She feels comfortable with him, and that is the main thing. Previously, the girl could not even imagine that their friendship would grow into something more. He is ready to come to her for trifles, if only so that she does not feel lonely. Although he very often misunderstands her, gets angry and shows his character, she accepts him in any way. But I'll have to work on the fact that he really likes to label people. But not today. Maybe some other time. Finally, he asked her to call him whenever something happened, and not to suffer alone. He would be free for her at any time, and he even said that he could deal with any person, regardless of their status. For him, the priority is that no one dares to offend her. Even now they cannot disperse peacefully. They are held back by some inexplicable force that they do not notice. After the modest meeting between my mother and relatives ended, preparations for the wedding proceeded quickly. But the fact that everything went quickly did not mean that the scale was small. The wedding venue was decorated with her mother's excellent sense of taste. Judging by her tastes, the venue will be top-notch, and the place where the wedding will take place is nothing less than the central temple where the coronation of the current emperor took place. The girl looks around and can't get used to the fact that now every holiday will look so luxurious, as if it were some very important occasion. Although this time, everything is just like that. Everything is tidy. There is not a speck of dust anywhere. The walls shine. The aroma of wealth and peace hangs in the air. She's too lazy to even imagine what emotions her mother is going through now, how she feels now, and how long she's been waiting for this. She probably now has absolute conviction that this is her last wedding, and she will no longer have to look for another partner because she has already found the ideal one. Well, we can only believe that this is true, but time will tell. At this moment, Mariana gets the feeling that she is not alone here, and perhaps right now, someone is looking at her from the outside. She turns around and notices the young duke, but for now, she doesn't even think about the fact that he is following her. It seems to her that he also came to check out the hall. Just like her, after all, he is also a participant in the wedding. The lady thought that they should pretend that they didn't notice each other and go about their business so as not to cause any inconvenience. Naturally, it didn't work out that way for her. He did everything he could to make it awkward for her to ignore him. Here they are already standing opposite each other, and he says that a whole week has passed, and what a relief it is that they have crossed paths again. He was clearly really looking forward to this. After this, he asks if she was by any chance very busy, because he tried to contact her several times through the crystal ball, and she never answered. She immediately felt very uncomfortable. Only now did she remember about that crystal ball. The girl thought he gave it to her out of politeness, so she simply left it somewhere on the table, and now she definitely can't remember if it was still there. It turns out that the guy tried to contact her. She acted rudely, but if I tell the truth, he might be upset. The first thing he thought was that the ball was broken and needed to be fixed. It wasn't a difficult task, and he was ready to help. Mariana eventually decided to tell him the truth, because after everything he had done for her, it would be disrespectful to do otherwise. She admitted that she accepted the crystal ball as an etiquette courtesy from the Duke's family, so I didn't think that he would really want to contact her, and now I'm very ashamed of the excessive carelessness I showed. To which he said that despite the fact that deadlines were tight and they needed to hurry, now was the perfect time to discuss this important topic. They will very soon become one united family, and such conversations should take place if everyone wants to be heard. Mariana admitted that, for her, as far as her mother's marriage is concerned, instead of accepting the new family, she only thinks that this will be another temporary marriage. She is confident that the ducal family has proper customs and formalities, and she apologizes for unintentionally ignoring them, after which the young gentleman explained that this is not what he meant. He just wanted to show respect for her opinion. That's what he was talking about, and he goes to apologize if he misled her. The guy has no idea what kind of environment she grew up in, if in almost every situation she thinks that it is only her fault, and that everyone thinks that she brings inconvenience to everyone. Just at that moment, the bishop approached them. After yesterday, he hadn't expected to see them together, but now, just in case, he asked if everything was okay, because, as he had noticed, they had been communicating here for a long time, and it was important for him to know that no misunderstandings had arisen between them. After that, he asked to accept his congratulations. They both will soon become one family, and he constantly crosses paths with Lady Mariana, and there are good reasons for that. They talked for a while, then the bishop left. They would see him again tomorrow. Mariana began to think that she hadn't had enough time to be alone and think about everything that was troubling her. So many thoughts had accumulated that if she didn't think through everything soon, depression would overtake her. She began to hint that it was time for her to leave. At the very least, she needed to prepare for tomorrow's ceremony, and wished him the same, because if it seems like there's enough time, it's only that way. But in reality, there won't be enough time later. He offered to take her home today too. He just happened to have a carriage ready, but she, as usual, refused for the same reason. She was about to turn around and go the other way when he said that he knew what the problem was and that the carriage would be different now. She was already wondering what he had arrived in this time. Did the guy really understand that she was more comfortable in something ordinary? Something she was used to? He just said that she could be sure that she would like everything, and he also smiled, thereby only arousing more interest. Now in front of them is a completely different carriage, which is very different from the one in which he arrived the first time. This time, he didn't even take any knights with him on purpose, so that the trip would be as comfortable as possible, so that nothing and no one would bother her. He believes that the carriage standing in front of them is the embodiment of simplicity, and nothing better could have been invented. He has no doubt that she will agree, because if that was the problem, then it shouldn't be there anymore. The lady thought that he listened to what she said last time, which means that he doesn't think only about himself and is ready to compromise, and this is a very good quality. The Duke's family has quite strict etiquette. Seeing how seriously they take ordinary escorts, the young Duke has his own rules, so she shouldn't refuse him this time. He wants to hope that she will like the carriage not only externally, but also internally. He has previously put a lot of effort and time into this, so much so that he had to commission an interior design for a smooth and comfortable ride. He took the carriage he had arrived in, custom-made by the Magic Tower, and equipped it as modestly as possible so that it wouldn't be too much of a burden. This time the trip should go without a single problem. At least he really hopes so. And meanwhile, after these words, she has only one question. Did she hear everything correctly? Did he really do something for the Magic Tower, where even the most ordinary order costs thousands of gold? After such actions, she begins to look at him completely differently, and she likes it. There were no people before who would use all their opportunities so seriously to please her. He did so much just so that she would ride with him for some time in a carriage, and on her own business. Thoughts arise. Since he is so polite and good now, then what will this guy become when he grows up? He will simply have no equal. Time passed. They arrived where they needed to be, and he, as a gentleman, is supposed to help her out into the street. He looks at her as if it gives him pleasure, and he is ready to do nothing but please her all day long. She thanked him for his help, but he said it wasn't worth it, because he didn't think he had done anything special yet. Mariana noticed that he had forgotten about their agreement and was again calling her too formally. She asked him to speak to her more simply, as she did to him. The guy reacted as if she had asked him out, asked if that meant they were getting closer, whatever that meant. To be honest, he thought it would take much longer, and while he was saying this, she felt awkward again. It seemed like the people around her deliberately didn't understand what she meant. It even seemed to her that perhaps the problem wasn't in them, but in her, and that she should learn to express her thoughts more directly and precisely. At this point, they said goodbye. After all, no one will do the work for them, and the day is not elastic. There is so little time left. It is a little hard to say goodbye this time, but they don't let on. The next time they will see each other is at the wedding ceremony, but until then, they need to do as much as possible of their business, because it is unknown how long the celebration will last. It was a special conversation. The girl feels that something is happening between them, but she is afraid to admit it to herself. He left so quickly that she didn't have time to notice how it happened, and it was still unclear to her whether it upset her or not. When he's around, she wants to be alone because she's embarrassed. But now that she's alone, she's starting to feel sad without him. Duke Miller's house. It's never quiet here, even in the early morning. Everything's as usual. The captain is training some knights, asking them to strike more accurately, but it seems no one is listening to him. And then some assistant runs up to him. He screams loudly, as if something serious had happened. The captain really doesn't like it when this happens. He prefers to resolve situations in peace and quiet. And then this happens. The guy asks what happened, what's going on, even though he understands that if he needs help, he still won't have time for it. He is informed that the captain has already returned, although everyone thought that he would return later. This could mean that things are not going well with his future half-sister, and in the meantime, he asked everyone to immediately restore order and meet the captain. The young Duke enters the territory, looks around, and they look at him as if they have done something wrong and are trying to hide it. Usually, everything happens differently, but this time he walked past silently and didn't say anything to anyone. No one understands how this is possible. Usually, such moments are very difficult for everyone, but the guy walked by as if nothing had happened. This means that the captain is in a great mood today, so he didn't even look at anyone. It's very simple. His thoughts are filled with Mariana, and all this time, he can't think about anything else. He has a lot of things to do. Documents, responsibilities, but he lacks the desire and time for it. The assistant couldn't help but come up to him to find out what had happened to him, because today the gentleman looked especially lively. A boy with glowing eyes says she couldn't take her eyes off him while they were riding in a carriage, a moment he still can't forget. He wants to believe that the girl is truly touched by his devotion and thinks about him all the time. This day is just amazing. that he wishes every person to feel how he feels now after meeting her. For him personally, all this looks much brighter than for other people. For example, the assistant does not understand how one can be so happy just because the girl suggested communicating without formalities. There is nothing wrong with that. He also realized that many would faint from shock if a society where connections decide everything found out that the very same Orion, known for his icy indifference, could make an expression on his face that no one had ever seen before. He is so in love that he doesn't realize how visible it is from the outside, and that for some, it is a reason to spread gossip. Out of the blue, the gentleman starts to get indignant that if it weren't for his nonsense, they would have become closer much earlier. His countries and the Soviets only slowed down the process. After which, the assistant asked what they were even talking about. The guy recalled how someone suggested that he give flowers to the lady every time they met, and also that he would impress her with the most luxurious things that exist. For example, a carriage, which was the worst decision. The gentleman asked her to imagine for just a second how burdened she felt, and said that he would never listen to his advice again, unless it was truly good. The assistant claims that everything he advised would please any noble lady. But he doesn't know that Mariana is not like everyone else. She is different. The guy asked her never to put her in the same place as other ladies again, because he thought no one would ever understand how smart and gifted she was. He even called her his little sister out loud, and his assistant was immediately surprised, because for Orion, family plays a special role in life, and he would not call someone a sister who does not deserve it. The empire is divided into 3 main noble factions. The first, the faction of the nobility led by the Duke of Hastings, whose family has long been associated with the royal dynasty. The second, a faction of the empire under the leadership of Duke Bolton, who swore allegiance to the crown. And finally, a neutral faction led by Duke Miller, who does not take sides. Because of their strict neutrality, the Miller family always lived in seclusion, which is why Orion was always lonely. Moreover, after losing his mother in childhood and being alone for a long time, all the boy wanted was, so this is a family with whom he could truly open his heart. If he had this, he would be the happiest man in the world. Still, according to the assistant, the guy is not the kind of person who would be too infatuated by meeting some girl. But it only seems that way. Who would have thought that fate would bring him together with the only daughter of the famous Madame Tatiana? Only, unlike her mother, she doesn't like being the center of attention. She really is not like everyone else. This is what attracted him to her. The main thing is that no one wants to spoil his impression of her, for example, because of envy. The assistant is already asking if he will see her at the upcoming wedding. He can't wait to see the one who is able to drive the unapproachable young duke crazy. And he would also like to say hello to her, to hear her voice. It would seem that there is nothing wrong with that. But he said it in such a way that the gentleman became seriously angry and began to ask aggressively, since when he became interested in seeing his sister. He doesn't understand why he might need this, and makes it clear that it's better not to talk to him about it. The guy apologized if he had said something wrong, but it sounded unconvincing, and the gentleman only got angrier. Then he kicked him out of the office and ordered him not to even think about trying to attract the attention of that beautiful lady. His reaction is quite obvious. He just doesn't want the girl to waste her time and energy on those who don't deserve it, and want to get to know her just for fun. He will not allow anyone to offend her or, even more so, take advantage of their acquaintance for their own personal purposes. Meanwhile, the long-awaited wedding day had arrived. Her mother's wedding in the central temple was in all its splendor, receiving blessings from more people than ever before. Everything is going so perfectly that it's impossible to even imagine. And it's no surprise, because the preparation was top-notch. There's not a single guest who would not sincerely admire the bride. She is truly irresistible. People constantly come up to Marianne and say that her mother today looks like the queen of everything beautiful and good. Her appearance simply cannot be described in ordinary words. You just have to see it. The girl agrees. She has never seen anything like this before, and is a little embarrassed by the thought that this is her own mother. It's so nice to discuss it with friends and hear compliments. Just imagine what will happen when guests have the opportunity to tell her this in person. For now, they are just discussing it with each other. But when the bride comes out into the hall, something will begin. Then they suddenly changed the topic and started talking about something else, because there simply weren't enough words to describe their admiration. The girls started talking about the young duke. There were already rumors going around that he was a strange person, so the lady had to defend him and explain that the rumors had nothing to do with what he really was. She has gotten to know him very well over these days and can confidently say that he is one of the few who does not disgust her. He knows what etiquette is. He is very attentive, kind, and not envious. While the two of them were standing there talking, the girl noticed that some guy was staring at the lady. She immediately guessed that this could be the one who would soon become her brother. Mariana turned around to see if it was him or not, saw that it was him, and asked her friend for a favor. She asked Rennie to lend her something because she owed this man something and promised to return it as soon as possible. This conversation happened so quickly that they both didn't fully understand who ended up owing whom. The only thing that is clear is that Mariana needs a small amount of money, which she promised to return in a couple of days. Rennie agreed to help, but the girl reacted as if she had given her a much larger sum than she had agreed to lend. And then a friend has an idea. She asks, how about using her money to scare him? Mariana doesn't quite understand how she came up with this, and doesn't know how to react to it. Meanwhile, the ceremony for which everyone had gathered here began. The priest was saying his words, which sounded like this: "May the joint path of these two be filled with only joy and noble love. Somewhere their future days will be filled with boundless, sincere blessings." Every girl here dreams of being in the bride's shoes, because this ceremony really does look like a dream. Meanwhile, these two are already tired of waiting for it all to end. They are unhappy that the wedding is lasting so long. A little more, and they will go crazy from hunger. Mariana responds to this by saying that the bishop himself did come to conduct this ceremony, but it was not a simple celebration. The papacy was involved in a power struggle with the imperial family, which raises the question of what other reason there could be for blessing Duke Miller's marriage. It's obvious that they want to gain influence through a neutral faction, and meanwhile, the girl says that it's not the bishop who's annoying Rennie, or rather, that guy named Barton Gremia who is standing in that corner next to Barton Gremia. He proved himself to be the youngest holy knight, with amazing skills and a humble character, and incredible attractiveness, which captivated countless female students of the academy. Only for Rennie, he was the most disgusting, and she never hid it. The reason for this was money. She is still fixated on the fact that the academy confiscated her money. The girl tries to show that this is not the case, saying that she simply can't stand these people who cling to the teacher's authority. In fact, the stakes were simply too high to play with students. Barton simply followed the professor's instructions, and from there, everything happened on its own. At this point, Mariana suggested forgetting about it and finally getting ready to receive the guests. Otherwise, they wouldn't have time to do anything. But before that, Mariana wanted to go talk to her mother and then change her clothes. When she ran faster so as not to make her friend wait for a long time, someone stopped her. The bishop greeted her and then asked if he should call her Lady Miller, as that would probably be more correct. After all, the entries in the registry have been updated, so it will be appropriate no matter what anyone says. In the meantime, the half-brother approached, who seemed to be preparing to come at the right time. The man asks how the Lord is doing. He is very happy that he can congratulate him personally and cannot find the words to describe it correctly. He also says that since Lady Marianne is grown up and well-mannered, she subscribes perfectly to the joy and well-being of the mill house. Everything looks wonderful, but she is embarrassed by the fact why such compliments. He literally showers her with them from head to toe. The guy replied that their lady always amazes them with her brightness and charm, which only embarrassed her even more. The two of them would talk and say so much that she already wanted to leave here. After some time, the man remembered that he wanted to introduce someone to them, someone about their age. The guy asks who they are talking about because he doesn't like to solve hints and riddles. After which, the man asked the guy to come over and say hello properly. This man turned out to be that same Barton, the heir of the Gremia family. He says that he is very glad to see them. It is a great honor for him. Naturally, the girl said the same thing. She liked that he was so polite, and so far, he was only causing pleasant sensations. Then she introduced herself as Mariana Burton, Madame Tatiana's daughter, and after these words, Orion couldn't believe his ears. He doesn't understand how, after his mother's wedding, she still can't use the Miller name. And then I thought that she probably didn't think about it or forgot, so there's nothing wrong with it. The bishop again began to admire their beautiful and charming couple. He believes that fate brought them together, and on this occasion offers them a cup of tea. Orion answered for her. He no longer considered it appropriate to arrange meetings for young Mariana. After all, as a student, she has many responsibilities that she shouldn't be distracted from, and given her gentle nature, It will be hard for her to refuse, and she will only harm herself. Then he switched to the knight, asked if, being a holy knight, he shouldn't now devote himself to training in the practical group, to which the guy replied that this is true, but protecting the bishop is also part of the service. Barton agreed to take this valuable advice from the young lord to heart, to which Orion only asked him to protect the bishop and not to do anything that he was not asked to do. At that moment, the girl mentally wondered if this really meant that the young lord was defending the political neutrality of the Miller family and the papacy, by the way. Orion, meanwhile, mentally wonders how this man dares to try something with their Mariana. He is glad that at that moment he was nearby and was able to stop him. After that, she said that she needed to change clothes, and quickly, and he took advantage of the opportunity and already offered to accompany her as usual. After all, accompanying his sister is part of the older brother's role, although it is clear that he is simply hiding behind this just to be with her as long as possible. To tell the truth, she doesn't like it a little that he calls himself an older brother. She's used to being the only child in the family, whom no one would ever call younger. It sounds like some kind of humiliation. He doesn't even think about it. He constantly says the same thing, that he is her older brother, and even smiles while doing it. For her, this is somehow unusual, unexpected, and in general, after such words, she has mixed feelings. The girl is completely at a loss as to what to say, how to react, and what to say to do the right thing without offending anyone. And then he says that in principle, he understands her. It was all very awkward and happened so quickly that she didn't really have time to get used to him, and he's already her older brother. That's why he says that if it's difficult to call him brother, you can start with the older brother, although things haven't changed here and haven't gotten any better. She speaks to him very hesitantly. She already regrets that she went this way, because at the very least, she wasted time. Her friend is still waiting for her, and she hasn't changed yet. The girl finally reached the right room. She was very tired of this conversation and didn't want to leave anymore. It's very quiet here. There's almost no one around. It's bright and clean. The atmosphere just beckons you to stay and forget about everything that's troubling you. The maid was working here calmly. She didn't think that anyone would come here anytime soon. In the end, the girl went further through this room to ask a question that she had hardly dared to ask. She's really scared to ask about it, in case the maid tells someone about her plan. But she has no choice. She asks if there is an emergency exit nearby, and as soon as she said this, goosebumps ran down my spine. Time passed. She was able to return normally. It turns out her friend waited for her without any problems. During this time, she managed to get her fill and met some people. Mariana came up to her and happily joined in with the tea drinking because she was just getting hungry, and for some reason she hadn't felt hungry before. As soon as they started eating sweets, they became noticeably kinder. A smile appeared on their faces and a sparkle appeared in their eyes. At some point, they got bored and started thinking about what to do. And then Rennie suggests putting those arrogant snobs in their place who only do what they do, flaunt their middle names. She can say more. She has a good plan with which they can do everything in the best possible way. The girl can understand why her friend looks at nobles with disdain. The house of Rennie, having recently been elevated to the nobility, had long been ridiculed as a house of upstarts. Having suffered endless slander, contempt, and ridicule because of her origin, it is understandable why she looks at aristocrats with disgust. Barton was walking around the hall, and then he approached the girls, because no one else interested him except them. Naturally, Rennie couldn't react to him normally. She asks if she understood correctly that he came here instead of offering prayers, and she said this with such a displeased look, as if she was about to pounce on him. Mariana had to stop her, otherwise the girl would have simply destroyed him on the spot in a matter of seconds. Mariana is just going to focus on finishing everything calmly and going to rest, because if anything else happens, she won't be able to handle it. She is so tired of trying to resolve all the conflicts that she can't explain it in words. Next time, she will think several times about whether it is worth agreeing to come to such events. This time, she is here only because it was important for her mother. In any other situation, she would have refused to come without even thinking about it, that's for sure. The guy realized he wasn't exactly welcome there, to put it mildly. So he said goodbye, as if he needed to say hello to someone else. Some girls immediately ran after him, probably his fans. And it's for the best. They won't let him go back, and Rennie will be less nervous. As soon as the guy walked away, the girl immediately started describing everyone around her, as if they were only interested in appearance. And Mariana reminded that she, in fact, only needed money, so it was strange to judge people when she was the same. Moreover, they were all like that, and it was normal. Some people needed one thing, some needed something else. All you can do is accept it, fight it, and there was no point in judging. Rennie still sticks to her opinion. She's already in a bad mood and doesn't even want to talk about it. Her friend looks at her from the outside and understands that it's better not to let it get to a conflict now. It's better for her to calm down herself than to waste her own nerves and energy on this. And when everything was more or less calm, the so-called older brother appears again, who does not let you forget about him. He came to introduce her to someone and doesn't even realize how much he scared her when he called her name out of the blue, when she wasn't ready for it. There's a guy standing next to him. Orion told me that he serves under the captain in their order of the Duchy of the Blue Knights. This is Behan Rune, and if she doesn't know anything about it, then Rune comes from a desert tribe. It's an honor for him to meet her. He's heard a lot about her and still can't believe that the meeting has finally happened. After she introduced herself by her previous name, Orion didn't remain silent this time. He reminded her that the meal was over and the reception of guests had begun. So now it would be better for her to introduce herself as Miller. The girl actually forgot that she was no longer a Burton, but a Miller. But it's not yet clear whether she's happy about it or not, because if that were the case, she wouldn't have forgotten about it. Earlier, in front of the bishop, it seemed strange that the young duke wanted her to introduce herself as a Miller. There were only a few times when her last name changed, but it always immediately changed back to the usual Burton, so the habit of calling herself Burton remained even when the last name changed. As usual, she intuitively thinks that it won't last long, but since the guy asked, she asked to be allowed to introduce herself again and gave her name correctly. Marianne Miller. Introducing yourself with a new name for the first time feels strange, but according to Orion, you can get used to it quickly. Although who knows? The only reason she didn't introduce herself with a different last name was because her mother was getting divorced too quickly. Now, it seems, this surname will stay with her much longer than all the previous ones. Rennie didn't stay away for long. She came closer and said that she was pleased to meet you. It's hard to believe that just a couple of minutes ago she was furious and ready to destroy everything and everyone in her path. She clearly likes this guy, unlike those she jumps on at the first meeting. Orion tells him that he hopes he can also have a good time with his little sister. The friend immediately wondered why someone would dare to say that Mariana is someone's sister. After all, she is her friend, and that is more important. This means that she can no longer communicate with anyone as well as she does with her. Mariana will never understand why they put such an emphasis on such strange things. She again wants to disappear into the ground and not hear all this. Some new conflict is brewing, for which she is not yet ready, because she has only just recovered from the previous one. She already has a headache. The only thing she wants now is to go into silence and not strain herself. When the girls were about to leave, Orion couldn't just let them go. He started telling them that he heard that her mother had a lot of things that needed to be translated, so he could help with that if necessary. The girl immediately said that it wasn't necessary. Of course she thanked him for his concern, but still, her mother could handle it herself. She knew what she was getting into, and she probably had some ideas on how to deal with it. The guy is not going to agree with her. He still insists on taking part in their move, because he is not used to it any other way. Moreover, he thinks that she also has something to transport, and his help cannot be superfluous, no matter what she says. She asks why he needs to move her things. Doesn't he have his own worries? Because it seems like he's not used to sitting still. The guy seemed to ignore everything she had just told him and asked what personal belongings she had and how many of them she had. She tells him that she has so few of them that all her things will fit into a small bag. His imagination began to produce images as if she lived very poor and had nothing. Not because she was that kind of person, but because there was no way to buy everything she needed. While he was digesting all this information, she once again made it clear that no matter how much he didn't want it, she has no intention of moving to the duchy's holdings, at least in the near future. Of course he didn't like it. He was upset, but he tried not to show it. He almost burst into tears, asking why she treats him like that. He wanted the best, but she constantly rejects him. She explained to him once again that she was currently living in the dorm and had no plans to move out. She would be there from the start of the new semester, so there were no other options. He hears it as if she doesn't perceive them all as a family and doesn't even want to think about it. He says that it's wrong, but that's not the point. She just has her own plans and she's going towards them. She understands, of course, that he's probably bored, but they all have their own lives, and she doesn't want to adjust to someone else's lifestyle just because her mother got married. Everything should be in moderation, but everyone keeps saying the same thing, and it gets more and more boring each time. And when he told her that there are plenty of wonderful things in the world besides studying, her friend laughed a little, because she understood that he would definitely not convince her otherwise. For Mariana, studying is the meaning of life. The girl no longer understands what words are best to explain to him that she needs a break from him. At first, it was fun to talk to him, but lately there has been too much of him, and it's already getting on her nerves. A little more, and she will be wary of persistent people like him, who do not understand and do not feel the boundaries. Meanwhile, evening came. They finally managed to leave here. A friend kindly drove Mariana where she needed to go and wished her a good evening. This was the best moment of the day because they were just silent. Nothing else was needed for happiness. At least today. Finally, her friend still wanted to warn her that she needs to be careful with her new relatives. Even though they seem nice now and are always helping, it will end sooner or later. In such cases, you need to be on guard, because at the most inopportune moment, such people usually take advantage and start walking over people's heads. They first win people over and then get what they want. She told her that if she wasn't careful, there was a risk of ending up drawn into the Duke's family, and all their problems would fall on her too, so it was better to stay away from them, at a distance, but at the same time, try to stay in touch. In any case, even if something happens, a friend is always happy to help because she understands that she has no one else. She considers it her duty to support and warn, as she did now. Meanwhile, the girl enters the room. She is met by an assistant, who has just prepared everything. She is glad to see her mistress and is already ready to carry out any orders, because she hasn't been very tired without them all day. She didn't have any errands. The lady didn't even remember her today, and as soon as they started talking about her, Mariana decided to visit her. The lady comes into her room. She deliberately didn't knock to see how she really feels. I just wasn't prepared for my mom to sit alone with a bottle of wine, as if she had some kind of problem. I'm very curious why she's not with her husband, about whom she said so many good things. As soon as the woman heard someone enter the room, she turned around, saw her daughter, and started smiling as if everything was fine with her. The whole room smelled so strongly of alcohol that it was hard to be there, and I immediately wanted to open the window completely. The girl asks why her mother is sitting on the windowsill. It's dangerous, to say the least. Tatiana replies that she's just feeling really good. Mariana asks if it's because so many people came to the wedding today, and her mother says that it must have caused her some inconvenience, and she feels a little ashamed about it. She understands that her daughter is very focused on her studies and that it has taken up a lot of her time. But her daughter still claims that she is much more important to her than her studies, and everything connected with it, especially since one day won't change anything. She somehow miraculously managed to lay her down on the bed, cover her with a blanket, and Tatiana no longer reaches for the bottle, and that's a success. It's always been like this. That mom likes it when it's noisy and lively around her. It was difficult to study with such a type, but if the one she loves is happy, who is Mary Ann to judge? Suddenly, the woman opens her eyes and promises that this marriage will be her last. She can't imagine liking anyone more than her current husband. The girl really wants to ask where he is now, since he is so good. But she doesn't, because it's better to talk about it later, when her mother is in a normal state. Tatiana had never said anything like this before. But now, she's so confident in her choice that it's even nice to hear. It will be good if everything turns out this way. She's probably truly in love this time, and when she's doing well, her daughter feels it. The girl wished her mother good night, but didn't say that she still had a feeling that something was wrong and that she wasn't being told something. The next day came. Tatiana woke up as if nothing had happened, and she also hinted that her daughter should go with her, although she had already heard that she was not interested. She asks Mariana one last time if she is sure that she doesn't want to go with her because she thinks it would be interesting. But in this regard, she only takes into account her own interests. Yesterday, you yourself said that your daughter has a lot of studying and she understands everything. But today, she wants to distract her again. The girl starts to explain that she definitely won't succeed today, and her mother starts to look at her, so she simply admires what a smart and beautiful daughter she has, who doesn't give in to manipulation and manages her time very skillfully. She always liked how the girl sets her priorities correctly and often sacrifices rest in order to quickly achieve her goals. Mariana still remembers their conversation yesterday. She is almost sure that her mother does not remember anything and does not even know that they talked about anything yesterday. They exchange glances. It was very difficult, but they still managed to say goodbye, because sooner or later, they would have to do it anyway. Mom asked her to take care of herself because she imagines that with all this studying, it is impossible to think about herself. And she would really like Mariana to rest more often. The girl thought to herself that if only she and the Duke didn't have any quarrels, she really didn't want her mother to come back quickly because of some misunderstandings, so that she could be happy for a little longer, and so that everything would be fine with them. Sometimes the girl will send letters, asking how they are doing, because she won't be able to live peacefully. I worry about how they live together. Now she has returned to her normal life, to documents, to papers, and everything else. The girl has already received the long-awaited letter of recommendation from the professor. She is even afraid to hold it in her hands. She doesn't know what he'll notice, but she's determined to keep her grades above average. She is very glad that he turned a blind eye to all this and said nothing. Apparently, she has a good reputation as a student, so they forgive her a lot. Meanwhile, the girl was walking down the corridor, collided with someone, and all the papers fell onto the floor, although she had just folded them. The guy started apologizing. He explained that he was in a big hurry and didn't notice her on the way, so he was ready to atone for his guilt and, if necessary, listen to all the documents as it was. He asks if she's okay because the shock was strong and he could have hit her. The guy's name is Trevor Barrel. As it turned out, this was the same guy who would be taking the promotion exam with her. She didn't say anything special to him, thanked him for his concern, and pretended that everything was fine. She'll somehow put all the documents together later, but now she doesn't have the strength or desire to do that, especially since she doesn't want to appear too aggressive in front of such a guy, since he apologized nicely, and it's not his fault that everything turned out this way. In short, Trevor is a top student who hasn't given up his position during his first year. There are rumors that he will be adopted by a family from Amber County. In addition, he is a student who is popular with everyone in the academy, knowing her how almost irreplaceable she is. This is a very unexpected moment for her. Meeting him was very unexpected, and one might even say, pleasant. The girl is already leaving him, walking down the corridor, and notices that her friend is looking out the window too intently. She asks what she is doing here because it looks strange, as if she saw something unusual. She herself wanted to see what was so interesting outside the window. You never know, maybe there really was something unusual there. Rennie asks to look straight there. She calls it madness, and insists very strongly. Outside the window was a very ordinary carriage, no different from the others. It looks quite modest, and it's not really clear what's so special about it that you'd look at it like that. Mariana says that everyone comes to school in a carriage. She doesn't understand what's so special about it, but her friend says that it's not just a carriage, as it might seem at first glance. According to her, it only looks unremarkable. It is made of magically treated wood. They imbued the highest quality wood with magic so that it lasts longer. Then she asked to look at the horses. Such horses with such a pedigree cannot be found in any race. Then the friend asked to look at the coachman. From his posture and appearance, it was immediately obvious that he exudes aristocracy. He is not just an ordinary coachman. He is clearly well-mannered and holds himself to dignity. Then she said she couldn't afford it and decided she had to find something similar right away. Mariana thought to herself that none of this mattered. It wasn't her they had come to pick her up, so it was unclear what the point of thinking about it was. Then it so happened that the girl went out into the street, and these people approached her with the words that the young Duke was inviting her to have a cup of tea, which meant that they had come specifically for her. They tried to contact her through a communication device for a long time, but she did not respond, and also returned letters with invitations. As before, she wants to finally find time for studying. She had planned to prepare much more for the exam, but she just can't complete even half of it. She was told once again that the gentleman was eagerly awaiting her arrival, and they also hinted that it would be better not to refuse, no matter what her plans were. They promised to accompany her in maximum comfort so that the trip would not cause any dissatisfaction and everything would work out for them. At first, Mariana resisted, but then she thought, since they insisted so much, why not ride in such a luxurious carriage at least once to see what it was like? At first, the girl almost fell asleep. It was so comfortable there that she wanted to stay and never go out again. Then thoughts arose that firstly, Mom was getting married right before exams, and now her stepbrother was bothering her with his tea drinking. This creates too many problems that she doesn't have time to deal with, and no one will be preparing for the exams for her. Then it will be unclear who to hug. No one will care because these are only her problems. And at the time when her friend was getting into the carriage, her friend saw this and was completely perplexed as to how this was possible. At first, Mariana says that it's not interesting, that no one will take her away, and that there's no point in meddling in other people's lives. But then this happens. She can't believe her eyes, and she would also like to ride in such a vehicle. Although it looks ordinary on the outside, inside she saw real luxury. Out of anger, she woke up her classmate, who was resting and not bothering anyone. Then they started talking about their own things. She even got a little distracted and was already smiling. While she was standing there looking out the window, she didn't see Zen start acting up and not warn her about it. He did this to find out where Mariana is now, which means that she still has his spell on her, showing her location. His friend is unhappy with this, but now it was very useful. She believes that even if the girl agreed to this, it does not mean that it should be used too often, especially since people sometimes need to distance themselves and be sure that no one is watching them. If you constantly know that someone can figure out your location at any moment, it is stressful. Then she realized that the guy wasn't even listening to her. He had already planned something and wasn't going to listen to her. There was definitely no stopping him, so she stopped resisting and just watched, just to make sure things didn't get worse. She is constantly frightened by his ideas, but there is nothing she can do about it. That's the kind of person he is. All she can do is accept it. Each time it irritates me more and more, but it holds on, and sometimes I wonder how much patience she has. She feels like it's her fault too, that she didn't find a way to install it, and now she feels a little bad about it. After all, she is Mariana's friend, and should have helped her in this regard somehow. But it's too late to think about it now. Xena can't be stopped. Meanwhile, the two are already in the coffee shop's private room. It's quiet here. The atmosphere is perfect for this meeting. The guy opens the menu. He hasn't been here for a long time, so he slightly forgot what's here. To begin with, he took black coffee for himself, and then immediately clarified that it would be hers, because he himself did not yet know about her preferences. The girl chose orange juice, and for some reason he thought it was cute, so he told her so. In fact, she didn't make this choice just like that. It's just strange that he himself doesn't understand it yet. She ordered juice because he himself really wanted to drink it. 10 minutes ago, there was a situation where he dreamed of this drink, but he couldn't find it anywhere on the street. Meanwhile, their order had already been brought to them, which this time they had waited for some reason, much longer than usual. And then he asks if he remembers correctly that school ends at this time, to which she says that it's not quite like that, because she finishes classes later because she's preparing for exams. But she just managed to finish early today. He became interested in how she was doing with the students, and whether she had found any friends at the academy. Mariana reminded him that he had already seen one of them earlier, that same Rini, her best friend. He's already starting to think about checking out her friends, and it's good that he suspects that when she finds out about this, she won't like it. And after a while, he starts telling me that he heard that she is preparing for a promotion exam. He just happens to know a genius who got in early, and then immediately became a senior and transferred from the public academy to the imperial one. So if needed, he could introduce her to him and he would help her with her studies. There probably wouldn't be a better mentor. In fact, he is referring to himself, and the girl does not understand who he is talking about. Mariana is confused about what he is trying to convey to her, and what is the point of introducing her to someone if he is so picky about it? She could only say that everything was fine. Everyone should make an effort to study independently, and in general, she was not used to relying on anyone but herself. He even managed to hint at this, saying that all of this is of course good, but when you have an assistant nearby, you can improve your skills, and this is never unnecessary, and that it would be wrong to refuse it. He must want to strictly manage everything to maintain the prestige of the Duke's family. Right, since the name of the ducal family is at stake, he will be strict about it. He would probably feel calmer if there were clear results. At that moment, she thought it was time to go back, told him she was leaving, and he reacted as if they wouldn't be able to see each other for 6 months. The girl says she'll try to get by without a mentor and thanks him for the offer, but he explains that he probably misunderstood him and asks her to wait. Every time he reacts like this when she leaves, it starts to become alarming because each time it looks abnormal. She understood at the beginning, when they first met and he was interested in spending time. But they see each other too often. The lady doesn't mind, but she has other things to do that are no less important. As soon as they started talking about how grades aren't the only things that matter in life, she didn't have time to respond to that. A golden ring, created by magic, appeared in the air. Orion asks her to immediately move away and hide, as if he is going to take the danger upon himself. Mariana, unlike him, wasn't even scared. She calmly observed and understood that everything wasn't as scary as he thought. This is a sorcerer, and she knows him, so she didn't even move from the spot. But she understands that he obviously came for her. Zen turns to the guy and asks him to give him the girl behind him. Otherwise, he will have to do it by force. Orion immediately began to defend her, saying that this would never happen, and asked her not to worry, as if her brother would now take care of the evil sorcerer. The guy said that the wizard attacked him when he was unguarded and asked what faction he was from so he would know where to complain. Mariana understands that at this rate, she won't be leaving here anytime soon, so she asked them to calm down. Time passed. She still couldn't leave. A huge group was already sitting at the table, and the servants were trying to quickly bring their orders. The guy wished everyone a good evening, although he understands perfectly well that everything will be very tense. Everyone is awkward in their own way. No one even looks anyone in the eye. Everything is exactly as the girl imagined. Orion, meanwhile, asks if he understands correctly that this is not the first time they have seen each other, but he asked about it as if he was not happy with it. This guy explains that he already knew him through this guy. He was so popular that he asked him to pretend not to know him in busy places. Orion, for some reason, asked again if the four of them had really been close to each other for a long time, to which he received the answer that they were all close enough, at least, to make such statements. The girl completely agrees with this. She already understood. There is nothing to hide. It is better for everyone to know than for someone to gradually learn something new for themselves. Meanwhile, Rennie is walking down the hallway. She has some free time, but she's not in the mood yet, so she wants to change that. She walks so sadly, as if something had happened, but she doesn't understand what exactly upset her. At the moment when she was already desperate, a friend appeared, who immediately corrected everything with just her presence. My friend was probably upset because Mariana was taking her first exam, and it was a very important day for her. And if this day was important for her friend, then it was important for her too. She made me very happy by saying that the exam wasn't as difficult as she thought. Everything went very quickly and easily. All that was left was to wait for the second one, and of course, the grade. The second exam is a research paper on the chosen topic. Mariana chose a topic called The Land of Perdition, so she recently had to search for more material in the library with the help of the young lord. According to him, their library is great together, and he really insisted that she choose it. And as for that very strange death, it is known as the mystical and corrupted land of the continent, but it is literally teeming with monsters. And since it is such a dangerous region, most people have lost interest in it. Meanwhile, her classmate comes out. He smiles surprisingly and asks how she is doing. He's interested in how she did on the exam, because judging by his own experience, he understands that it's different for everyone. The girl said that she felt like she did well, but she was still worried that she might have overestimated herself and end up doing worse. As for her classmate, he struggled, but was still happy because he thought it would be impossible to complete even half of the assignments. Meanwhile, all the materials have already been prepared in advance, and the girl is invited to go to the library, where there is a lot of interesting things for her. And the guy also says that until Orion comes, she can feel calm. After all, everyone has seen how she reacts when there is too much of this person. Of course she couldn't refuse. After all, that library really could have something very valuable that couldn't be found anywhere else. Meanwhile, a friend approached her, and they already had something to discuss. Basically as usual. Mariana asks Ronnie if it's possible that Trevor Barrel knows her real name and other information about her personal life. My friend thinks that this is impossible, and there is no need to even think about it, because they have already been convinced more than once that her personal life is completely safe and no one will know more about her than necessary. She is still very embarrassed by the fact that Trevor Barrel is acting very friendly. They have already arrived at the place of importance. This place is impressive from the first seconds. It is exactly as she imagined it. It's very spacious, clean, comfortable, and has a special atmosphere that you can't feel in other places like this. And she also surprisingly quickly found a complete collection of records about the country of death here. This is already enough to just take and use. She's already uneasy thinking about how much effort it will take to live up to these expectations. From the outside, It's very noticeable how special she feels here. After all, there's literally everything here for her to pass her exam with honors. She promised that with such tremendous support, she would do her best to live up to all their expectations. So the guy realized that she is one of those people who always wants to repay kindness with kindness, and this is valuable to him. Mariana thought that they had already discussed everything, and he basically had nothing to say, when suddenly the guy says that the reason for their actions is not grades at the academy at all. At this point, their night commander had been feeling sad for several days. He said that it seemed like he had failed to make a good impression on his younger sister, and many people were trying to help him with this. Before they could finish speaking, Orion burst into the library, already wanting to invite her to dinner. He said this before saying hello. The lady never ceases to be amazed at how important it is for him to spend time with her. She is literally more important to him than anything else. It's interesting to imagine what he's capable of if she needs something and asks him for help. Even if it's impossible, he'll most likely do everything for her. Meanwhile, without even really waiting for her answer, he already has everything ready for dinner. He asks her not to be shy and to eat as much as she can. He didn't know what exactly she liked, so he asked her to cook whatever was available. For her, it seemed like it was too much. But on the other hand, it's nice to see how a person tries, even if it's just an ordinary dinner. It's an indicator that she's a very important person to him. Since he's taken this matter so seriously, it would be impolite to refuse an invitation to dinner, let alone not try anything. Besides, everything looks so delicious that looking at it all, it's impossible to feel indifferent. While she's trying to choose something she wants most, she notices how he continues to stare at her. In such a situation, it's hard to have a quiet dinner. The guy literally stares and doesn't understand that he's only making things worse. Mariana was thinking about what to talk to him about and ended up asking where he had just returned from because she heard that he had some work duties today. He says that he just arrived from there, and after that he asked her what brought her here. I had to tell her that she came to use the office for a short while to prepare for the exam. Naturally, the questions didn't end there. After that, he asked if she was alone or not. She mentioned the rune that helped her. Orion didn't understand at first how this was possible, even asked if they were speaking for the same person, and then said that he said he was on sick leave because he was sick. But in the end, it turned out that was not true. The assistant laughed a little at this, because she warned him about it, and Mariana was already thinking about how to protect that man. After all, he helped her, and she turned him in. It turned out very ugly. We can only hope for a miracle. Maybe Orion is in a good mood today, and he won't punish anyone. Looking at the maid, Mariana thought that literally everyone in this place was looking at her with warmth. Even early on, when they walked in the hall, they smiled at her and greeted her. The girl still doesn't understand why this is so, because she thinks that in this house she is nothing more than a small pebble underfoot. It's ironic, but it feels like she's the most emotionless one here. She'd prefer them to communicate with her formally, because she thinks that's all she deserves. While she was silent, the guy kept looking at her, as if he still wanted to say something. He wonders why she didn't spend the night here last night, but that was unexpected. He also says that it is a modest place, but there is a room where she can stay. He can even hire a cook to prepare her nightly snacks. It sounded so unusual, but for him, it really wasn't a problem at all. The girl apologized, and then said that she usually doesn't go to sleepovers, and he says that he understands her. Then she said that if that's the case, she doesn't understand why the young lord is so worried about her. She thinks that the time has come to discuss it, because things can't go on like this any longer. He pretends not to understand what she means, and she started by saying that their parents are their business, and she personally should not devote all her time to the new family after this, at least when she is very busy. When her mother and the Duke break up, then it's logical that they will also lose touch. She said this, and didn't think about how he would react to it. The guy was noticeably upset. He was surprised that she was even thinking about this. At what stage? When the wedding had just happened. She usually never speaks so directly to anyone, but with him, it's impossible to do otherwise. Instead of realizing that this is another hint, he perceives everything as if they are becoming closer to her, and this is good. When she saw him for the first time, she couldn't even imagine that there would be so many problems. She used to think that she could find an approach to him over time, but everything is only getting more complicated. And here the most interesting thing begins. Orion decided to talk about something he couldn't talk about before. He doesn't think that everything revolves around their parents' relationship, and that they might have some other common interests. He also said that he didn't choose to be his father's son, and that the fact that they are now a family also didn't depend on them. And now he suggests using the fact that they are now one family to get to know each other better. After he said all this, she became even more confused and no longer knew how to distance herself from him. Now he keeps repeating how happy he is that she became his sister. It's good, of course, but if you paid a little less attention, everything would be fine. There would be nothing to complain about. And here the most interesting part begins. He said that she probably still doesn't know this, but he saw her before. It was a long time ago at His Majesty's New Year's banquet. It was the first time the girl had been at such an event. She remembers how delighted her mother was, saying that she was finally invited to a big banquet. She was incredibly beautiful that day, and suddenly Mariana wanted to go there with her too. Only the girl doesn't remember talking to anyone there. It was so long ago that she can't even remember what she was wearing. Orion clarified that he didn't approach her, and they didn't communicate. He just watched her from the side while she didn't notice. She was then a child who clapped for her mother alone when she sang, although everyone was silent, trying to maintain appearances after such a grand performance. She clapped her hands alone, smiling happily, and this caught his attention. He admired how she didn't pay attention to other people's looks. She just calmly enjoyed her food and admired her mother. And she also tried to fussily wander around the room, studying him. Then he found the little child very interesting. What attracted him was that instead of following strict manners, she enjoyed the banquet in her own way. It was wonderful. He doesn't seem to be saying anything bad, but she feels so awkward that she already wants to ask him to stop so she doesn't have to listen to it anymore. Besides everything he had already said, there was one more thing. She didn't have high expectations of him, and she didn't demand anything. She didn't care what others said about him. She never judged him by his cover, so everything seemed easier, and he wanted to treat her better, the way she deserved. From the day he saw her for the first time, he had a feeling that fate would definitely bring them together again. The guy waited an insanely long time for new meetings, even imagining how it could happen. There was a moment when he even set aside one page in his diary to write down his wish. He showed her name and wrote that he wanted to see her as soon as possible, even for a couple of minutes. Today is the third day since the girl started wearing shoes in the Duke's house after dinner with the young Duke, thanks to which her preparation for the second exam went smoothly. Not only the material that is hard to get, but also the Rune Lord's colorful descriptions of the land of doom. The Duke's library is truly the perfect place to study. Nothing could be better. There is only one drawback to all this. The blondes who constantly haunt her wherever she is. He beats around the bush, sometimes even pretending that he didn't come to see her, although from the outside, everything is perfectly visible. And he constantly asks if she needs any help, as if he doesn't see that she needs silence and that she can figure everything out perfectly well without him. Today is the day when she has no desire to tolerate this. She is directly hinting that everyone has their own things to do, and he should have something like that too. He responds to this by saying that of course they exist, but nothing urgent, so he can be there as long as he wants. If only he knew that this doesn't make her happy, but rather the opposite. With various phrases, she continued to hint that there was too much of him in her life, and she would like to fix it. He pretends not to understand anything, but deep down, he probably feels that something is wrong. At first, he didn't react to these words at all, but now he hears them more often and understands their meaning clearly. If so, he suggests staying not too far away, just at some distance, but still intends to watch her. Mariana even screamed a little, saying that if she needed anything, she would call him for help. But otherwise, there was no point in being around all the time. And then she couldn't take it anymore and admitted that, frankly speaking, his presence was already starting to cause discomfort. It was obvious how much pain he felt at that moment. He even started crying and started to leave. It may seem heartless, but there's nothing to be done. Preparing for exams is already very stressful. She needs to get back to studying before she forgets what she's already learned. Otherwise, it will be very disappointing. The girl was so carried away that it was too late. She got out of the carriage onto the street and was surprised to see fireflies flying everywhere. They are so beautiful that you can't take your eyes off them. They are like stars that can move in the air. She was walking calmly forward, and then she met a familiar silhouette. This person also noticed her. She became curious about what he was doing here, because at such a time it was rare for anyone to appear on the street without a reason. Zed asks why she's out so late, and she says it just happened that way. It turned out that he had been waiting for her all this time, and even skipped dinner for this, but he just didn't want to admit it. In the end, she decided to cook dinner for them, and would only allow him to leave after he ate, and not otherwise. They just have some wonderful seafood that needs to be used, and then he says that he prefers meat. The lady isn't going to stand on ceremony with him. She says that he will eat what they give him. This isn't a restaurant for him, and he's not paying for it. After some time, she brings him a very appetizing portion. But he is confused by the fact that there is only one plate. Mariana explained that she had eaten at the Duke's estate, and he asked her not to say that she had dined with him, because who knows what he has in mind. Mariana is being too straightforward with him today. She replied that how she spends time with her mother's fiancé's son is none of his business. But if she were so brave with Orion, it would be better and there wouldn't be so many problems. She shows her courage in the wrong place, and meanwhile, the guy says that he already checked that guy. He turned out to be strange as expected. The girl doesn't really listen to him now. The main thing for her is that he stays full. And what he says, let him talk to himself. Moreover, she hates discussing someone without their presence. It seems to her that this is the highest degree of disrespect for a person. If you talk about someone, then only with good words, without condemning or gossiping. Zed noticed that she was thinking about something and asked her to tell him everything that had accumulated in her mind that day. He then said that she had been going to the young Duke for the last few days, during which time he had said something to her that might cause her to worry. The girl says that she didn't tell him a word about it, which means that he was following her. Otherwise, how else could he have known that she was there? She explains that she's fine, but he still asks her to explain what's wrong, because half of her worries are usually trivial, and he doesn't want to worry about her without a reason. In the end, she couldn't hold back and told everything as it was. Only they discussed that they became a family, not because any of them wanted it. And what Orion said is that since they are not a family, they need to go through barriers to begin to understand each other. Zed asks what the problem is then, to which she replies that she just wants family to be something special. If he understands what she means, of course. If the Duke sees relationships with others, and the connection with her mother, something like just family, somehow she becomes sad about it. I want to understand how serious he is about her. Only then will Tatiana's daughter be at peace. Zed believes that if she has any suspicions, that's how it is. To which the girl asks if he really thinks that what the young Duke said doesn't make any sense. After which the guy added that it doesn't matter whether his words make sense. What's important is what's on her mind. It's important to understand whether she really wants to play family with him or whether it's something imposed. To tell the truth, she herself cannot answer this question to honestly admit to herself what she thinks about all this and what she wants. Before, it seemed like time would pass and everything would become clear. But now we can say for sure that time hasn't solved anything. Everything has only become more difficult. People around her constantly upset the girl, but she can't share this with her mother because she has a lot of her own worries. She wants to solve all her problems on her own, just like she used to. But it's a shame that it doesn't always work out that way. The guy somehow didn't think that she would tell him so much. He was used to her being secretive and rarely sharing her problems. And then this happened. Zed realized that without a serious conversation, they wouldn't come to a conclusion. He offered to clarify something. If he and that guy fell into the water at the same time, they needed to figure out who she would run to save first. Almost everything depends on this answer, and considering that none of them can swim, the choice needs to be made immediately. To which the girl says that she would ask Barton to save him because she herself can't swim either. And he says that in moments like these, she should say that she would run to save him without looking back, of course. So he is now very unhappy with her answer. And after that, he asked not to say that she treats him, the one who has been with her since birth, the same way as she treats the guy she recently met. These are such awkward questions that she's afraid to say something wrong, so as not to make things worse. And so she finally said that so be it, if such a situation arises, she will save him first. Only after this was he able to calm down, although he was still unhappy, because this should have been said immediately and not when he asked about it. A minute later, her friend was already leaving somewhere, but for some reason, if she hadn't asked where he was going, he wouldn't have even said anything. Apparently, he was very offended. The guy didn't even answer her question now. Instead, he said that her second exam, it's better to pass it well so that he doesn't get nervous again and doesn't have to think about how to calm her and himself down later. And lastly, he gave me a little ring that will help me with concentration, which is just what I need for the exam. Mariana wasn't ready for this. Of course, she was happy and asked if he had really been waiting for her specifically for this, to give her this ring. I feel like I don't even need anything else to be happy right now. Just this ring, although the gift itself is more important to me, and the attention and care from a close friend is priceless. The ring fit her finger perfectly, and the girl will never cease to be amazed at how attentive he is to such small details. At that moment, she remembered the necklace her friend had given her, and once again realized that there are many more people around her who support her than it seems. She wanted to do something for each of them, so that they too would feel how dear they are to her. Now, we'll have to work hard to justify their support and show that it all works and that their efforts weren't in vain. Few students are interested in the early admission system, and only a few manage to pass due to the very high difficulty of the exam. And if you don't pass, you can only come back to retake it in 2 years. Not earlier. They're very strict about that. Without sufficient confidence, few dare to try, which is why the exam is usually taken only by nobles or students of a special class who have received an advanced education. Mariana was standing calmly in her place, not paying attention to anyone, and suddenly some girl came up to her. She says she hasn't seen her before and asked what grade Mariana is in. Probably wants to get to know her. It was expected that some people would be interested if someone like her, barely noticeable, suddenly showed up at a promotion exam, so she replied that she was from the general group, and the girl remembered that this was the very class where Trevor studied. She says that, who would have thought that with the group together, anyone else would be a candidate for promotion besides Trevor? Immediately after this, the girl asked her name, and Mariana had to use a temporary fake surname. She introduced herself as Mariana Hopin, and then she said that she is an ordinary person, so few people know about her, and also added that she does not have support from her parents, and her grades are average. This is all to reduce envy and make everyone around her think less that they can turn to her for help regarding the exam. She has very little time for herself, and she definitely won't be able to help others, and if she refuses, she could ruin her relationship with someone. The girl chose the most suitable option. I had to cheat a little, but there was no other way. At some point, while at her desk, she had the thought that maybe she should take off the ring, in case it was against the rules. It's legal, but even if it helps her on exams, it seems unfair, and she'll always think she only got through it thanks to him, not her own knowledge. Meanwhile, the same guy who is the most famous student, Trevor, enters the classroom. Even those who are not concerned about his results worry about him. He is an example for many, and surprisingly, he has few envious people. Mariana noticed almost immediately that he had become more familiar in the last week. She greeted him politely, although she didn't really want to. The girl wasn't ready for this, but he suddenly decided to sit next to her. But before that, he asked if she didn't mind him sitting there next to her. It was always known and obvious how sociable he was, but lately this has grown into friendliness. There are probably reasons for this, and in the meantime, the guy asks how she prepared for the exams. He personally didn't have time to prepare properly, so he asks everyone in a row to reduce his anxiety a little, hearing that he is not the only one. For example, now he smiles absolutely kindly, but despite this, something still confuses her. At that moment, a classmate approached them and asked him for a pen. Of course, he shared it with her because he had brought a spare one just for such a case. It seems like nothing special is happening, but the tension is still there, probably because of the important day. And looking at this girl, it seems like she approached her on purpose so that Mariana wouldn't think that Trevor was only talking to her. If she approached her with such an intention, then it's very strange. This may indicate that she has a lot of self-doubt and wants to show in every possible way that someone like her might have a problem approaching and talking to this guy. Instead of leaving and continuing to prepare for the exam, she also pestered Mariana about the pen, which she really liked. This is a fountain pen with the Rookie Company crest. It is from a limited edition, and it also stands out from the others. The girl said that it was a gift from a friend, which she enjoys using, and meanwhile, the guy says that when she said this, he remembered seeing her together in class. And then the talk started about how it wasn't surprising that, for some, the name Mariana sounded familiar. It was the name Rennie had bet everything she had on. It was about a bet on passing exams for promotion. More than half the school was involved, and they also said that the winnings were unrealistic, even if you guessed 3 times. Mariana overheard these conversations. At first, she didn't want to think about it. And then, she began to mentally get angry at her friend, who promised not to do this. It's strange that she returned to this business after she was punished. Apparently, the girl didn't understand the first time that it wouldn't lead to anything good. She asked Mariana not to worry, that the exam was nothing, but right behind her back, she ruined everything using her name. Now it's clear why she was smirking like that, and meanwhile, her classmates are talking about how if Rennie bet on her, It means Mariana must have real talent, and they also say that she didn't put a penny on Trevor, the strongest candidate, which is why she was misunderstood at first. Mariana is already dreaming of getting everything back, her peace and quiet, because all this will soon drive her crazy. She no longer remembers the last time she did, and thought about what is really important to her. Lately, she seems to be drifting with the flow and moving away from her path. Meanwhile, the teacher says that everyone looks tense, and that's very good. That's exactly the mood they need. And if anyone wants to do well in the exam, they'll need that fighting spirit. Absolutely everyone who is here, day after day, shows a good attitude towards studying and excellent results. And they are all exactly those who want to grow and develop further. For such students, the Academy is ready to provide all the opportunities that will be useful to them. He also says that the students know very well that if they fail the exam, they will only be able to return here in 2 years. It was also important to mention that there are no concessions in this regard. No one can even hope for this, and if this happens, not only will they lose the opportunity to graduate early, but their honor will also be trampled. The man asks them to remember that they are competitors here. Now they need to think only about themselves, because by helping someone, each of them is only distancing themselves from their dreams, wasting time on it and getting involved in risks. If the teacher notices that someone is distracted and talking to someone, their results will be annulled. And now that he's said all the most important things, warned everyone about the consequences, the exam can begin. Of course, it would be nicer to hear some words of support, but this particular teacher doesn't know what that means. He's strict, and you need to get used to it. He walks carefully from one side to the other to immediately notice if someone is cheating or getting distracted. This is his job during the exam. In such a situation, it is very difficult to calm down and believe that everything will work out. But there is no choice. You can only accept it. No one expected that the examiner's gaze would be so frightening, especially when he passes by. It's as if he looks into the soul and reads all thoughts. Finally, when he passed by her, it became at least a little easier, because when the teacher is close, it becomes unbearable. It seems to her that she has already done something wrong, or something for which she can be expelled. But this is not so. Thanks to the young lord staring at her during preparation, it's much easier for her to concentrate when the same situation occurs. Who could have thought that she would need it? Now she also remembers him with good thoughts. Apparently, not everything was so bad. Everything was more or less normal, but only until one moment when she suddenly started to have a headache, so much so that it became unbearable. In this state, it is impossible to do anything. My hand doesn't listen to me. I want to close my eyes and endure this pain that just won't go away. The man noticed that something was wrong and asked her what the problem was, but she was afraid to say an extra word in case he misunderstood her. I had to explain that her hand just twitched from nerves, but everything else was fine, so that he wouldn't watch her or look in her direction again. It's no wonder that he couldn't even support her properly now, saying that if she can't cope with even this, then it's unlikely that she'll be able to cope with anything serious that awaits her in the future. She doesn't really listen to him because she's wondering to herself what the hell that was. Such a sudden headache that she's never had to deal with before. At this point, it turns out that Trevor is also feeling unwell, only his situation is much worse. The professor discovered the boy was unconscious and reported an urgent alarm, which forced the exam to be stopped. Mariana is completely perplexed by what is happening here. She is very worried about both herself and him. She can't wait to find out what all this just happened and how to understand it, in case the same thing happens again. Everyone starts pushing. Everyone is panicking. There are a lot of questions. Very little understanding of what will happen next. And in general, the situation is only getting worse. The same questions are heard from everywhere about what happened to Trevor, and Mariana will try to step aside to soberly understand everything that happened. Black blood was coming out of him. It was everywhere. No one had ever seen anything like this, and still, no one had thought to call a doctor. If only we could find out what influenced this, it would be much easier. And significantly, the teacher had already come to his senses a little. He said that that was all for today. The students could go home, and he would give them instructions on how to take the exams later. All they had to do was wait. I would like to know in advance whether the questions will change if the exam is delayed. This is a real nuisance. As soon as she turned to the side, a classmate appeared next to her, looking at her strangely. Without looking away, she has such dark eyes, as if they speak for themselves that they have something to do with it. The girl feels there is some connection, but she is afraid to even try to figure it out. In the end, she walked on with a dissatisfied expression on her face, leaving behind some kind of unpleasant energy trail. The question arises, what just happened? Recently? How long did the exam last? Something is happening in the audience. Meanwhile, she was already outside, thinking about taking a walk and thinking about it. And suddenly she met a friend who attacked her with questions about the exam. She talks as if no one told her anything, which means everyone is keeping what happened a secret. Now it's unclear how and what is best to say, so as not to say too much, especially since Rennie is smiling so much that I don't want to upset her. Then the girl thought that sooner or later they would discuss it anyway, and asked first about what was going on with the dispute. Mariana asked her friend directly how she dared to bet on her, and she stopped moving, as if she had lost the power of speech. It's unclear to her how she found out about this, but since that's the case, I had to say that most of all she wanted to be happy for her and Mariana simply misunderstood her. Rennie thought that a serious conflict and showdown awaited them, but Mariana said that this was just fun that did not harm anyone, so she would not be indignant and stop her in anything. In the end, the girl promised that this would never happen again. She feels very awkward now, but when she put it on, for some reason she didn't think about it. Apparently she was sure that everything would go unnoticed. Since Mariana now knows everything, the girl asked what about winnings and who had what exam results, to which she received the answer that, this time, no one would win anything. Rennie didn't understand what she meant and asked how she should understand it. And Mariana said that they hadn't even finished the exam itself. She wanted to tell what happened to Trevor, and at that very second, she felt the same thing that was in the audience. Rennie wasn't prepared for this. She was scared because it was very obvious from the outside how suddenly her friend became ill. This pain is so terrible that it can't be described with any words. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. After some time, Zed's friend appears out of nowhere. He took her with him while she was unconscious. Meanwhile, the girl is lying on the bed while she is still aware of what is happening and where she is, and her friend is watching and monitoring her condition. Time passed. The girl came to her senses, and at that moment, everyone who was worried about her was already around her. My friend, in particular, is always so out of control that she thought she would lose consciousness if something happened to her. Zed understands that she wants to ask a lot of questions, but asks her to lie down for at least a while. It's better not to get up abruptly now. Seeing him, she felt very calm, because this man can be trusted as herself. The girl wasn't surprised when she woke up and saw him next to her. As always, he was right on time. Burton is also incredibly happy for her. At least the girl's complexion is better now than it was when she fell off her feet. Then the guy came back to her to check her temperature. She was also finally asleep. Otherwise, they would have had to call a doctor. Mariana asks what happened to her, and Rennie is scared that her friend has lost her memory, but still reminds her that when they were talking, she lost consciousness and only just woke up. Everything happened exactly as it did during the exam. A sudden headache and loss of consciousness. I just wonder if it's normal to faint like that for no reason, considering the fact that the girl has a good immune system and has never had this happen before. And the thought that the symptoms are recurring very often alarms her and begins to worry her greatly. She thought that now would be a good time to tell him that the same thing happened to Trevor during the exam, which is why everything was cancelled. She told everything down to the last detail, and when she remembered how it all happened, it was as if she found herself in that situation for a moment. This is all very sad. We need to sort out the situation. But now everyone is afraid that these symptoms can be transmitted, because Mariana definitely wasn't sick, and if that happened to her, then the same thing could happen to any of them. And when the lady mentioned that she saw black blood, Zed seemed to understand something, and now that's interesting. Maybe he has at least some kind of clue. It's strange, but it was at that moment that he for some reason asked why she was still wearing the necklace from Reina, and the girl replied that she told her to wear it always and everywhere, so she obeyed. Looking at him, she found that something had happened to him, but it was broken. Only when it happened she had no idea. A friend asked her to remember if she had felt any pain before. Perhaps there was something strange. Eventually, they began to learn all the little details to put the puzzle together and better understand which direction to move in next. They already have some guesses, but most likely they are still very far from the truth. The particular difficulty is that nothing like this should ever happen in this academy. It's protected at all levels, so if this is happening, it means it's very serious. And the answer is definitely not obvious. It is also unclear with whom such information can be shared and with whom it cannot be shared. The only thing they could get their hands on is that this necklace probably contains sacred power, as Zed suggests. And even earlier, he cast a protection spell on her. This is the one who strikes back if someone does harm. This sacred power even prevails over curses, which indicates that it is already active. It's more likely that while Mariana was taking the exam, someone was cursed with something, and as a result, everything turned into what they have now. This means that among the victims, there are those who tried to curse her. And since there are only 2 of them, including herself, the answer is obvious. Even though they've already started discussing it, the girl still doesn't believe that it could be true. She finds excuses for him, not realizing that Trevor doesn't deserve it. She doesn't understand. Is it really true that out of all the students, only he could do this? And what's the point for him anyway? Friends suggested that perhaps he needed something specific from her. Evidence could be that he suddenly started talking to her. And that's exactly what happened. He also asked to sit next to her. And there was also a small coincidence. Their topic of study was the same. If you put all these facts together, it all comes down to one thing. It's all him.